All right. Can you guys hear me all right? All right. Good morning. Um, Thanks for letting me, witness with you guys today. And um, this is my home. This church is my home. So, when Ross asked me to do this, I don't say no. So, uh, you know, um, yeah. So thanks for letting me attempt to witness with you guys today. Ross is in a series called Love Without Agenda. Um, and just trying to improve my relationship with Jesus and, love like he did. That's kind of where I'm at today. So the passage we're going to be out of is Matthew 26:31. Um, it's Peter's denial foretold. Um, so then Jesus said to them, "You will all become deserters because of me this night, for it is written, I will strike the shepherd and the sheep of the flock will be scattered. But after I am raised up, I will go ahead of you to Galilee." Peter said to him, "Though all become deserters because of you, I will never desert you." Jesus said to him, "Truly, I tell you, this very night, before the cock crows, you will deny me 3 times." Peter said to him, "Even though I must die with you, I will not deny you." And so said all the disciples. I've kind of been chewing on this passage for, the last week. And, the way I was kind of explained to look at it was just to see what kind of words stuck out to me in that passage. And, the first one was scattered. Uh, so, like, for me, I've felt scattered before. Has anybody else felt like they've been the scattered um, in any context of the word, Because so I've been there, and then another word that comes to me was never desert because, um, I've deserted before, but I've never been deserted. God's love didn't quit on me, and then even though when I'm in denial mode, um, my God doesn't deny me, um, you know. And then so as we move through the passage, like another word or set of words that stuck out to me was not deny. Peter, I think for me, like it's easy, or it would be, it's easy for me when I'm in face to face with a person to tell them exactly what they want to hear, and like, so, especially when it comes to the face of God, like I'm telling you, like, hey, I'm not going to deny you, and I feel like there would be some pressure there. And I can relate to that because, um, when I'm in a real close relationship with Jesus, like I have that fervor of Peter, like I'm going to pick up my sword but what am I doing when I carry that out into the world? Like, am I going with the same fervor? Um, I think sometimes it's easier for me, especially when I'm in certain situations, to, have a little bit of Peter in me. Like, I swear I'm going to do this and this is what I'm going to do. And then, when it comes down to it, like 3 different times, Peter denies Jesus. And, I'd like to think that I wouldn't do that, but what's the reality of the situation? Um, I work at a place, Ross did the series on the 12 steps in Jesus. And, I get conflicted there sometimes because, um, I did a group a couple weeks ago where it was like, we're reading out of this book. And, um, it's talking about coming to a higher power of your own understanding, and some of the guys were asking me, well, what's your concept, and like, every part of my being wants to tell them the good news about Jesus, every part of me. But as it relates to that program, like I get conflicted, like I can't, there's some lines there I can't cross. And so like, that's how I relate to Peter, this week. I think that's something I need to work on, like where do those boundaries fall and stuff like that. So, and something else this speaks to me, this, how it spoke to me this week is, you know, I think I place expectations on the results sometimes. So Peter had expectations of what Jesus was going to do, as far as bringing the kingdom of heaven to earth. And um, the way Jesus brought that was not the way Peter expected. Like he did it through suffering and died on the cross for our sins, for us all to get salvation. And I don't know, like it's tough. I do that sometimes. Just placing expectations on, if I do this, if I behave a certain way, people are going to show me more affection, or they're going to do what I want them to do. And really, in reality, I'm just kind of trying to manipulate outcomes instead of letting God's outcomes multiply. Sometimes I just need to get out of my own way and let God do his thing. You know, how am I doing? Am I doing all right? So Jesus carried the message of good news, and I received the message. So I just want to carry the message, and it's a different world we live in today than what Peter was in, but like, I don't want to hide my faith in front of the world, but then be a different person in front of God, like, um, I just want to try to be the same way out in the world that I am with God in my private time, and I feel like that's difficult for me to do sometimes, but it's something for me to work towards, um, you know. And the last part of this, what we did was 56, so a little bit farther down. Jesus tells them, but all this has taken place so that the scriptures of the prophets may be fulfilled. And then all the disciples deserted him and fled. Um, so they were all, gung ho about not leaving Jesus' side, and then when the rubber met the road and it was time to do what they said they were going to do, they all ended up fleeing. And these guys just spent the last 3 years with Jesus. Like, I don't know how long everybody's been walking with Jesus, but my walk is somewhat similar time, but they had that personal relationship, and that's what I want. And I hope that, it's a goal for me to look forward to when it's crunch time. I don't want to be that deserter, but at the end of the day, that's Jesus's love without an agenda, and that's grace, so if I can walk into that a little bit and just keep practicing and doing better, it's something to look forward to. So um, I don't know. I think that's it in a nutshell. That's all I got. Thanks. Caleb stole my music stand.
Thanks for sharing, Caleb. That's not an easy thing to do. So thanks for sharing what God put on your heart, and for leading us closer to Him through your words. So thank you. If you would, just join me for the last chorus. Oh,
Thanks again, Caleb. That's great. During your sermon, I just thought about that as far as we weren't there back during Peter's day and Jesus's day, and it's a whole different environment. But if we put ourselves in that situation today where we're being forced to share our love for Jesus in a situation that Peter was in, would we do it? That's a question that I think about a lot. If I were put in that situation where you had to proclaim it, otherwise bad things may happen to you, would you do it? It's hard to think about. So, Caleb, thank you. Really appreciate that. I'm going to talk a little bit about Kick It. And Kick It's doing a really cool fundraiser right now for Easter. So I'm going to have Katie, who is the executive director, come up for Kick It. Put her on the spot a little bit. So I know. Yeah, well, this is what happened when Ross was gone. So just for everybody who haven't heard about Kick It, can you just explain what Kick It is and what Kick It does?
Yeah, sure. I'm fighting a head cold, so I sound a little froggy. So Kick It serves all of Johnson County. We work with ages 16 through 25 who are homeless or struggling with homelessness. We get a lot of young moms, kids who've been kicked out, kids struggling with suicide or their own addictions. They come to us from a multifaceted reasons. I get a lot of people who kind of think young adults are homeless because they've run away from home. Their homes, I will say, if they have run away from homes, they are escaping just very abusive situations. That's not really the reality of what homelessness looks like in Johnson County. So currently right now, our caseload is a lot of young families. The average age of homelessness in Indiana is age 7, and I see that a lot. We have a lot of young 18 to 22-year-olds with children. So that is the dynamics of who we're serving right now, are young families.
When you get a call from somebody or somebody gives you a referral, what's that process like? What happens then that you are able to help them?
So it's kind of multifaceted again. So Kick It, we have different programs that we offer through our services. So we try to encourage them to work on the youth development program, which is a one-on-one, side-by-side program where we engage the youth to work with our youth coaches to change the trajectory of their lives. So it's really coming alongside of them and helping them step by step meet their needs, whether that is helping them find safe and stable shelter, whatever that might look like. Johnson County does not have any shelters, so that's kind of a tricky situation. If they don't have a high school diploma, helping them obtain their GED or high school diploma, because that will help us gain better employment, and helping them find a job. So those are the 3 main goals, but then of course there's other things too, like budgeting, life skills, parenting, addressing underlying trauma. And so it's sort of a 6 to 18 month engagement process where we walk alongside them and coach them, and really just be a positive source of encouragement and guidance, because they don't really have that in their lives. And just walking with them through that process, because it's hard. Change is hard. And most times it's hard being 20, right? It's hard being a young person, and it's hard being a young person with trauma. And it's hard being that without a support network. And so we try to be that for them. Sometimes they just need resources. So sometimes we're just helping them navigate resources that are available to them in the community. And sometimes they're not quite ready to jump into that youth development program. So we just kind of connect them with an adult who's willing to serve as a mentor, who is just a source of positive encouragement until they're ready to kind of engage in the youth development program.
And so coming up Easter, you guys have a big Easter kind of celebration that you guys do, and giving meals and baskets. And so how can we help as a church? How can everybody else online listening help out? What are the donations that they can do?
So if you know me, I used to work for a church, and Easter is like one of the big 3 in the church world. And I came to nonprofit social services, and I was like, man, nonprofits knock it out of the water for Christmas and Thanksgiving, but they don't do anything for Easter. And so as a Christ follower, I feel like we should be doing something for Easter because this is a time of celebration and joy, and what better opportunity to be the hands and feet of Christ, and loving our neighbors. And so 3 years ago when I stepped into the position of Kick It, I was like, we need to do something for Easter, because that's when we should be showing people the love of Christ. And so we do an Easter basket and Easter meal distribution. And so what we do is collect food donations. And this is kind of tricky because you have to think through the lens of homelessness. Most people that we work with only have access to a microwave. And so cooking with a microwave changes the dynamics of what your Easter meal looks like. So we take pre-cooked hams that can be warmed up in a microwave, just add water, mashed potatoes, jars of applesauce, prepackaged rolls, prepackaged cookies. What is the? I gave Ross the list. Ross, 2 liters of lemonade. So thinking through the lens of like what you can cook with in a microwave or that's already cooked and packaged. So we take food donations for those things, paper products like paper plates, paper napkins, plastic silverware, and cups. And then, of course, we do Easter baskets for the kiddos because every kiddo loves an Easter basket, right? And that's expensive on the parenting side of that. And so we just do an Easter distribution. It is open to anyone in Johnson County, any family that's in need. We started this 3 years. This is our 3rd year doing this. And last year, I think we put together 50 baskets for families and then 75 like kid baskets, and I had to cut off the registration because that's all I had resources for. This year I don't have really a limit, so that's kind of amazing. I've had some like other partners step up, so I'm really excited to open that up even bigger to the community. So any family is able to register for that. We have flyers on our social media. They can scan it as like a church family. You can share it with those that you work with. Our ask is that they are a resident of Johnson County and they can register for it. We do 2 distribution times. So Heaven and Earth can step into an opportunity to donate items, or if you're willing to serve during the distribution, we just do a drive-through distribution, so you can help with that too. If you have any questions, you can ask me. So we do 2 distributions, Monday, April 11th from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m., and then Wednesday, April 13th from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m.
Thank you. Thank you, Katie. Give Katie a hand. We'll make sure to put that on the Facebook page and our Instagram and all that stuff, all the details there. And if you have any questions, please reach out to Ross or anybody else in the church and we can get you all the details you need. So if there's nothing else, thank you guys for coming. We really appreciate you guys, and just have a great, blessed week. And I'll pray us out. Dear Lord, I thank you for this church. I thank you for just your willingness to share for Caleb, and for Caleb to share on his heart and be a witness. And we're thankful for him and for all of his works in this church. We're thankful for Katie and Kick It and all the great things that they're doing. And let us help them as a church as we can. Let's go this week trying to figure out how to be better for you, be a light in this world that is sometimes seems so dark. A special prayer for the situation overseas in Ukraine. We pray for them during this time, and that your hands will be with them as hopefully we can get to a resolution on that. Let us go on and